listening to Big World at Work.
Kai's Inquisition, The Blight of Shadowfall, Episode 6, written and read by Tawn Krakowski. Jack and Kai searched the area with a predatory grace. The warrior resembled a colossal shadow of the much smaller and less muscular Inquisitor, and they moved with a synchronous precision that belied the short time they had known each other. It did not take them long to confirm that nothing dangerous lurked nearby. "Find anything?" Pia asked. Jack shook her head as Kai crouched to examine the markings in the sand near the beached longboat more closely. "It looks like whoever dragged this ashore fled into the woods. I'd say there were at least 3 of them, in addition to another that had to be carried for some reason, perhaps either unconscious or unwilling. That's the best I can do. We're losing the light, and the tracks are a mess." Kai glanced toward the setting sun and witnessed the stern of the ocean wanderer slip silently beneath the surface. She imagined the wooden mermaid figurehead on its prow charging headlong into the murky depths, leading the souls of the dead to Naderu to be judged and returned to the wheel to be reborn, restoring balance. She reflected on her mission to investigate the blight that was tipping Naderu's scales in favor of death. How was she to get to Shadowfall now? The old hermit spoke of others who had also been chosen for this quest. Did the divine scales put her on this path to find them? Perhaps her goddess was testing her. If that was so, had she failed when the ship sank? With uncertainty weighing heavily upon her heart, Kai stood and turned to the scholar. "Why don't you wake them, Pia? I think we'll be safe enough here for the night." Pia turned and clambered into the small craft containing Chajek, Brivis, and the stowaway. She briskly reached into her purple bag, retrieved a small vial, uncorked it, and proceeded to pinch Brivis's nose while dispensing a drop of the vial's contents into her mouth. When the red-haired woman stirred, Pia replaced the stopper and scrambled backward, but she was not quick enough to escape being splattered as Brivis sputtered, coughed, convulsed, and finally retched. "Oh, blast it all to the lower planes!" Pia cursed. "I hate poison." "They were poisoned?" Kai bristled, taken aback. She took a step closer and demanded, "How do you know?" "Well, first of all, I am a healer with some experience with this sort of thing," she answered haughtily, flapping her robes in a feeble attempt to dislodge the foulness clinging to it. "Also, it would make sense since we were all poisoned." "What?" Kai's face puckered in disbelief even as her instincts recognized the truth in Pia's words. She was so intent on listening to the healer that she hardly noticed as Brivis got to her knees and spewed the remaining contents of her stomach in the white sand beside the boat. Jack parked one heavy boot on a chunk of driftwood and began to clean her falchion using her thigh to stabilize the blade. In a conversational tone, she said, "Pia started to feel sick at dinner before you got there. I had to carry her skinny tail end to her bunk. She looked awful and was going on and on about bloodroot before she finally passed out. So I gave her some. She could have warned me about the puking, though," Jack grimaced, eyeing the still heaving Brivis in distaste. "I was barely conscious," Pia protested, and maneuvered behind the elven woman toward the 2 halflings. "I'm also lucky you didn't kill me. It just takes a tiny amount of this elixir to induce vomiting to purge whatever toxin that was in the stew." Still confused, Kai asked, "Then how was it that Jack and I weren't affected?" Even as the words left her lips, she knew the answer. Jack was inordinately large. She probably didn't consume a high enough dose of the poison to compensate for her size. Kai, on the other hand, hardly had a chance to eat. In fact, she couldn't remember taking a single sip before the ship ran aground, which is probably why she received a blow to the back of the head. Pia rearranged both of the halflings so that they wouldn't stain her clothing before administering the blood root to each in turn. When she was done, she returned to check on a pale and panting Brivis as the bard and the thief began their own messy road to recovery. Kai strode over to Jack and said, "I'll gather firewood and start setting up camp. Can you take first watch while Pia tends to the others?" In truth, she wanted desperately to question the stowaway to discover what part he had played in the day's events and how he had come to be in the longboat, but now was not the time. He was in no shape to do much talking. Jack returned her falchion to its scabbard and grunted her assent. She then took up a position at the tree line with her shoulder against a saw palmetto, casually examining her unkempt nails and biting off the most ragged examples. Conversation was scarce while the castaways recovered from their ordeal. Kai had built a sizable bonfire, gathered seaweed to soothe the guts of the afflicted, and cast a generic spell to create fresh water in a bowl hastily and inexpertly woven with palm fronds. Pia used herbs and healing spells to treat those who needed it, and Jack mostly kept to the shadows, lounging apathetically. Once Kai could stand it no longer, she addressed the stowaway. "We have not been properly introduced. My name is Kai Amari. I would like to know what you were doing aboard the Ocean Wanderer." "Call me Reynard," the little man offered graciously while striking a casual pose, which was transformed into something almost comical by the presence of his chains. "What do you think I was doing?" "He was robbing us blind," Chajek accused. "I tried to stop him and got nothing but grief for my troubles. I've seen his kind before. He's dangerous." As soon as the bard had recovered enough to evaluate his appearance, he had performed a magical rite to clean the salt, dirt, and vomit from his clothes, tame his hair, and remove the evening whiskers from his face. Kai found it disconcerting that he should look ready for an audience with royalty, while the rest of them were barely fit to clean stables. "Be that as it may," Kai said, "I would like to hear from Reynard. In addition, I would like to know how he came to be in the longboat." "I can answer that," Brivis offered. "When Chajek and I left the galley, we came across Lorst with the Reynard, slung over his shoulder, senseless. He told us that whoever had put us onto the rocks had also broken Stone Skull out of the brig, and he was afraid something terrible was going to happen to Captain Rydal. He ordered us to take the halfling and escape in the longboat while he went in search of the captain. Unfortunately, Chajek passed out on the way, and I barely managed to get the three of us in the boat before I also began to feel drowsy and blacked out. How we got from the Ocean Wanderer to this beach, I haven't a clue. Did Lorst shuttle us here?" She looked around as if expecting to see the first mate materialize from behind a tree. "Lorst didn't make it," Pia said softly. The castaways stared quietly into the dancing flames for a moment, each lost in their own thoughts. Reynard was the one who broke the silence. "He was the first mate, right? Well, I'm sorry to hear about Lorst, or whatever his name was, not being here with us. Mostly because I would really like to be out of these shackles." It was only then that Kai remembered she still possessed the iron key. "I can free you, Reynard, but I need some reassurances that you can be trusted." "All I can offer is this," Reynard answered. "I am but one small man, and I am well aware that there is safety in numbers." "That is acceptable," Kai acquiesced. She removed the key from her hidden pocket and unlocked the manacles, offering him the key once she saw that he meant to hold on to the cuffs. "You can't do that!" Chajek protested. "I just did," Kai sighed. "Now, I think it's time that you, Reynard, and I took a turn at keeping watch. Maybe we can settle our differences while the others get some rest." "I settle my grievances my own way," Chajek sneered, rose from his place around the fire, and stalked down the moonlit strand. "I think I like that guy," Reynard mumbled through pursed lips. "Hey, anybody got a knife I can have? I can't protect myself very well with just my good looks." Jack snickered and tossed a dagger, one she had removed from a corpse on the ship and stashed in her boot, at his feet. "Why, thank you, my emerald beauty," Reynard gushed as he bent to retrieve it. "I think this is the beginning of an exciting and profitable alliance." Once again Kai wondered if she had made the correct choice. She knew the rogue was hiding something, but she sensed no motives other than greed and self-preservation from him. She pushed the doubt from her mind with a silent prayer to Naderu for guidance. "The course before you will test your faith and courage," the old hermit had warned her. Recalling these words made Kai smile. It would seem that the test had just begun, and Kai was determined to prove herself worthy.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.
You're listening to Big World Network.